OK, let's bring in Mahjoob Zweiri, who's an associate professor in contemporary politics of the Middle East at Qatar University, and he kindly joins me live on the line now from Doha. Welcome to you, Professor. So we have seen, haven't we, in just the recent past, more and more countries officially acknowledging the existence of the state of Palestine. Do you think what we've seen now, the decision by the Knesset, this resolution, and perhaps an attempt to kind of stop that momentum?
I don't think so. Will stop the momentum. It's just this is the Israeli this is the Netanyahu strategy for the last 19 years. He did not accept the fact that the Palestinian has the right to have a state. He rejected the 338 and 242 are allowing, which basically recognize West Bank and Gaza as an occupied land. And also he did not recognize the right of the Palestinians to decide about their future. So these are issues. Netanyahu, as a politician in Israel, he always rejected that. He always tried to say that the Palestinians, they can live in other places like Jordan. So what's happening now, the context is very clear. In 1994, there were only around 100 settlements in West Bank. Now we have more than 900 settlements in West Bank. So there are realities created by the Israeli government to say that Palestinians, they don't have actually the right to have a state. And also we have to rely on to look at what the statement announced by the International Court for Justice about advisory opinion, which will be announced tomorrow. So they try to have this kind of step to basically win the public opinion confrontation within Israel and say that, we have already recognized, the Israeli Palestinian has no right to have a government. It is a continuation of Netanyahu's policies.
If we go right back to 1993, the Oslo Accords that were signed by Palestinian and Israeli leaders, now they called for the coexistence of Israeli and Palestinian states. So there was hope back then. Things have changed now, obviously. But as I understand it, it was Benjamin Netanyahu who was behind this resolution. So in theory, once you've got a different leader, once he's gone, which seems inevitable, does that mean that there is hope that once again Israel might say we would recognise a Palestinian state?
That's itself is problematic, because countries should respect, government should respect what the previous government have basically committed their own political system. We saw this in the case of the United States when Trump decided to end the nuclear deal with Iran. And now we see what Netanyahu is doing. Of course, maybe another government will try to basically change the whole thing. But the realities on the ground are really creating real obstacles before establishing Palestinian states. There is no land left to the Palestinians. These are the realities on the ground. Cities on the West Bank, they become a kibbutz. They are just, people are actually in prison. It's exactly like Gaza. And people, they cannot move between cities and neighboring cities. And it took them hours to move. So there are realities created by the Israeli government on the ground. Regardless of this announcement, the realities are very difficult and making the life of the Palestinians impossible.
Given that it's become extremely clear that Palestinians, they are not going to leave. They have remained in the most horrific conditions. You've got Israeli lawmakers saying we're not going to acknowledge you as a state. So if they're not going to do that and they know that the Palestinians aren't going to leave, what in their minds do you think Israeli MPs are thinking is going to happen next?
I think the assumption is very clear. They can force everything by power. They believe that they have the power. They can convince the United States that the solution on the Palestinian side is Hamas, is a radical views. So basically, they have already created a slogan and narrative to convince the American and the Western that, Mahmoud Abbas is radical, Hamas is radical voice of the Palestinians. They need someone else from I don't know where they get from. Someone else of the Palestinians, they design, they create and say, those are the Palestinians we like. So the reality is they don't want any Palestinian, they don't want any kind of state. But let me just highlight two quick points. One, by announcing this statement, they returned the whole Palestinian issue to pre-1990, which basically the Intifada time, confrontation time, the lack of peace and security. And the other thing, what Netanyahu is doing is a great service to the voices within the region who always said, this is a government you cannot trust. And basically those voices now, they will criticize the government, and there will be a huge debate within the region between those forces and the government. And we may lead actually instability in some countries, criticizing that, look what the Israelis doing. What are the options you have in hand?
Mahjoob, great to speak to you. Appreciate your time. Thank you. Analysis from Mahjoob Zweiri there, who's an associate professor in contemporary politics of the Middle East at Qatar University.